Wouldn't it be nice if Adam Sandler didn't count the dates up all so wrong? And wouldn't it be nice to talk together in a format that goes way too long? You know it's time to rewind, baby, for 19 dates of this movie with Drew Barry. Yeah, wouldn't it be nice? Good morning, listeners. It's another beautiful day here on It's Time to Rewind. I'm your host, Bubbawheat, and joining me today is my guest, Walter Vinci. How are you doing today?
I'm great. I have missed podcasting to an extent, so I'm thrilled to be here.
Well, it's good to have you on. And this season, I have finished going through 51st Dates one date at a time. And now I'm taking my break in between seasons to go through a few more of Adam Sandler's movies, for better or worse. And last time I covered the first collaboration between Adam Sandler and Drew Barrymore with The Wedding Singer. And so today I'm covering their most recent collaboration with 2014's Blended. And we'll get into it here pretty soon. But this is definitely the worst of the three. Have you seen how many of those three? How many of the other two have you seen, Walter?
I have seen the other two. I've not seen them in a while. It's been a while since I've seen The Wedding Singer, and it's been a while since I've seen 51st Dates. So this one was a first time for me. Uh, but I would say I might have to disagree with you. I actually kind of like this movie quite a bit.
Well, I mean, I will say that this movie made me laugh several times, and and we'll get into some of that. But at the same time, throughout the entire movie, I was just thinking to myself, this is not a good movie.
I'm very curious as to uh, your reasoning why you didn't think it was a very good movie.
All right, but before we get too deep into Blended, I'm curious, what's the rest of your history with the Adam Sandler movies? Like, how how did you come to his movies, and like, do you generally like his comedies more than most, or where do you fall on that spectrum?
I came into Adam Sandler, back when he was, his star was just rocketing to the top. Back in, gosh, it had to have been back in like the, you know, late '90s, early 2000s.
Yeah.
And I really enjoy for what they are. They're if I want to have just like a simple, at the time I thought they were absolutely hilarious, but like on subsequent watches, I think he's still funny. I'm not having watched movies and watched the progression of his career, I am significantly less about the abadoopa yappy gooby Adam Sandler, and I want more of this Adam Sandler. I've told people who are Adam Sandler fans who only know him from like the silly comedy side, that I am one of the biggest proponents to Adam Sandler as an actor. He is phenomenal. I think he's great. I think that he's vastly underrated. And I think that this is kind of a good blend of serious Adam Sandler and funny Adam Sandler, where he's getting to use his comedy chops, but also show more of his range.
Yeah, I think that this falls kind of in between, or I mean, it is very much in the same world, and literally in the same world as The Wedding Singer and 51st Dates, because we do get a couple cameos from characters from those movies. Did you catch either of them?
I caught the cameos. I also caught a couple of interesting like callbacks. Like it's set in the same city as the Wedding Singer. Um, there's
I think I
there's
overlooked that, even though I did watch The Wedding Singer just for the first time just a few weeks ago.
there's an in there they both have interrupted kisses.
Yeah, all three of them do.
Yep. So yeah, I mean, it's but that's also what I kind of expect from like from a more lighthearted Adam Sandler comedy. I was actually more surprised that I didn't see oh, I'm blanking on his name now. The American Gigolo, Rob Schneider,
Oh
who
yeah.
who usually almost always makes an appearance in every Adam Sandler movie, at least in some way, shape, or form. But I don't recall seeing him in this.
Yeah, there's no Adam Sandler and there's no oh, I can't think of his name, the King of Queens.
Uh, yeah. I'm blanking on his name now too, and I was just thinking of it. But yeah, we move on.
Yeah, well, jumping into the, the quick plot for people that might not know of this movie, because I feel like this movie kind of came and went, and whenever you ask people about movies with Adam Sandler and Drew Barrymore, I think they'll be pretty quick to mention 50 First Dates, and a lot of people will remember, I mean, The Wedding Singer first. And then a lot of people will remember 50 First Dates. And then a few people will remember Blended. It came out in 2014, and it's this kind of uh odd couple, Brady Bunch-esque almost, a sitcom level of scheme where these two people go out on a first date and it's horrible, and then they keep running into each other, and the Drew Barrymore's character, her boss or her partner is dating Adam Sandler's character's boss, and I don't remember their character names. Uh
It's Dick is
Lauren,
Adam Sandler's boss, and
yeah, Dick from
um,
Dick's Sporting Goods.
yep, and yeah, so that's who Wendy McClendon Covey is dating. She's dating Adam Sandler's boss.
Yeah, and they break up because she finds out that he has five kids.
Yep.
And so the boss sells his vacation to both Adam Sandler and Drew Barrymore. And so they go to Africa because Lauren is a divorced, now single mother with two boys, and Adam Sandler is a widower. Jim, his character, he's a widower with three girls, and so it's basically like a mini Brady Bunch in movie form, sent to Africa. And hijinks ensue, and of course the two characters hate each other in the beginning, and they grow to like each other, and then love each other by the end. So it's kind of a standard format for. I feel, I honestly I say that, but I can't honestly. Well, I guess I can't off the top of my head think of other romantic comedies that use this formula, but I know that there are
Oh,
many.
there's tons. There's a bunch. But again, the name, the specific examples are escaping. But I can see that story playing out, multiple times where they don't like each other. There was one recently with what was the name? With Sandra Bullock and Ryan Reynolds.
Oh yeah.
Where they're not really keen on each other, but they have to pretend to be a couple, and at the end they have feelings for them. So it's a formula that shows up in a lot of these rom-coms.
Yeah, and I think it works well enough in this one, adding the single parent aspect to it, and the fact that the two of them end up growing together through their how well they interact with the other person's children.
Yeah, and I think that's what gives it the heart that really made me enjoy this.
Hmm. And of course, it starts with the awful first date, and that scene did make me laugh. And even though I think it's used in a lot of the trailers where he's so nervous because he hasn't had this is his first date after his wife died, and I think this is her first date after her divorce as well. And he takes her to Hooters, which that's kind of a red flag number one. But of course, later in the movie, you find out that his late wife used to work at Hooters, and that's where he met her, and that's why he knows all the waitresses. And there's little things like that where it's like, first impression is horrible. And then you find out that, oh, that was actually kind of a sweet move if you know all the backstory behind it.
Yeah, and the way that they kind of drip that information out to you over the course of the movie, I thought was really well done because they didn't hit you over the head with it. It came out kind of naturally. When Drew Barrymore is talking to the oldest, and she just casually drops that, oh, my mom used to work at Hooters, you know, and like that's when like it starts to kind of hit Lauren like he's maybe not really a jerk. He's just he's you know
Awkward. He's
he's
very
awkward
awkward.
because like you find out that his wife passed at the very beginning during their first date, you know, um, because she assumes that he's divorced as well, and he's like, so why'd your wife leave you? And he's like, cancer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, how would you feel if you make you made that kind of crack at somebody and that's the answer you got? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Um,
And I do like how they very quickly show how similar these two characters are with their personalities, because she goes to the bathroom and calls her best friend slash work business partner and or the no the babysitter, that's what it was, and she asked the babysitter to call back in 10 minutes with some made up excuse so she can get out of the date. And before the babysitter calls back, someone, his babysitter calls him with this ridiculous excuse about an avalanche in the backyard.
it's Shaq that calls him.
Yeah.
So that was a surprise. I was like, huh, okay.
Yeah, and I thought Shaq was very fun. I think a lot of the side characters in here are hilarious. I did love Shaq in his small role here. I absolutely love Terry Crews. Once they get to Africa, he is this just like the the leader of the Greek chorus, only it's a bunch of African singers.
That's actually Lady Bird, Lady, what are they called? Lady Bird Black Mambazo. They're actually like a legit like singing group. They perform on Sesame Street a number of times, and even have a Lifesavers commercial under their belt singing for Wintergreen Lifesavers.
Oh, nice. Yeah, but Terry Crews is fantastic, even though
He's
I did
he's
read
great in
that.
everything though. To be
Yeah.
fair, Terry Crews, you could have Terry Crews reading the dictionary and it would be interesting.
Yeah, and he just keeps popping up and almost like an Oompa Loompa as well with his chorus behind him. And
Chorus behind him and his just overly like sexual like mannerisms. But they're going
yes,
to get blended. But what's killing me is he's using a Jamaican accent, and I'm like, wait,
yes.
what is going? What is happening?
Yeah, even though
But
they're
it
supposed to be
works.
in
It
South
it total
Africa.
it totally worked for me.
Mhm. And yeah, I also
Jessica
liked, go
Jessica
ahead.
Lowe's character is Ginger, like
Yeah.
one of the side characters. It's been driving me nuts. I could swear I've seen her from something else, but I looked at her IMDb and cannot figure out what else she's in or who else she reminds me of.
Yeah, she is fantastic. That's I it's funny I say that, I don't feel like this is a very good movie, and yet as we're discussing it, I'm saying a lot of positive things, and it did make me laugh, but at the same time, I feel like some of the situations were just so over the top that I thought it was stupid, but at the same time they made me laugh. Like
Yeah,
I did love the like early on before they go to Africa, like their first time whenever they're accidentally ran into each other after the first date, and she's buying a replacement porn magazine because
it,
she found the centerfold with the babysitter's face taped over it in her son's room, and she ripped it up, but she wants to replace it. And Jim is buying feminine products for his oldest because he doesn't know what to do, which I think that is kind of a very worn out gag, that the dad that doesn't know how to purchase feminine products, because I'm the dad of two girls, and my oldest is a teenager, and I know exactly what type of pad she uses, and I have absolutely no qualms going to the grocery store and picking them up for her.
exactly. It's a bit of a tired trope, but
Mm.
but it's also this is an Adam Sandler thing, so I expectations. um, yeah, there's that expectations of like the kind of level of comedy you're gonna get, and also the suspension of disbelief. Like in this
Mhm.
entire resort, they're gonna literally run into each other. Like maybe at the room, but like at the gates when everyone's like walking in, and seeing them seeing each other because obviously it's a split vacation package but you wouldn't know that until you actually got to the room, or like I think there's that was a missed opportunity for maybe some slapsticky, kind of comedy. Like someone's in the room, other people walk in expecting the room to be unoccupied.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And hilarity ensues somewhere.
Yeah, I also thought that it was a bit over the top the way that Jim was this clueless single father that he treats his three daughters like boys. You know, he calls Hillary Larry, his middle child is Espen as an ESPN, and his youngest I
Lou?
forget what her full
I
name,
think
but
it's yeah, but it's shortened to Lou.
yeah.
And this I don't know what the outside of the Espen one, like where they were going with that.
Yeah, and they all have the well, Lou not so much. Has like a normal little girl haircut, but Espen and Hillary, Larry at the beginning, they have this Prince Valiant haircut, which I think is a perfect description. Although I do love that they call out the joke where Larry says that she has no idea who that is.
Yes, the Prince Valiant comment.
Mhm.
But also too, like, and that's also another interesting reveal too, is when they mention about like he only knows like this barber for them to go to, and then it's kind of it's not the best callback for it, but it also like when he mentions his wife was like a tomboy as well, and
Yeah.
so his three daughters go to this barber, and maybe it's by his design because of the way he's processing his own grief, um and with the loss of his wife, that his daughters all, the two older daughters, you know have their haircut like that because it maybe gives him some level of comfort in like seeing his dead wife through them. You know what I mean?
I don't know. I didn't get
It's
that.
just that might be a stretch,
Yeah.
because it's also that is actually the one big problem I have with the movie, is the time frame. Um, that Adam Sandler at the beginning of the movie says he hasn't dated since college, but it's never really clear on when his wife passed away, like how long ago did it happen? Because like
Right.
the little one remembers, the middle one remembers, and the oldest one remembers, and they have their different ways of kind of working through it. And
Yeah,
it's
I got the
it's never clear
impression
to
that
me.
they never put a date on it. My guesstimation would be that she passed within like a year or two. So it's short enough that they're still in everybody's memory, but it's long enough that it for a lot of people it would be a year would be long enough to start potentially dating again.
Yeah, and it also speaks to the implied relationship between Adam, because there's that really sweet scene where he's talking to his youngest daughter. Um, I think it's his youngest daughter in the scene where she's asking like, did mom ever talk to you about seeing anybody else? And
Yeah.
he's like, toward the end, that's all she would talk about.
Hmm. Yeah, I thought that was a really great sweet scene. I do think that this movie handles the sweetness of the building relationship and them connecting with the each other's children and the how respectful they are to the dead wife, which I don't even do they ever say what her name was?
I don't I don't recall ever hearing name, or even like them ever like really alluding to what she may have looked like outside that she kind of sort of looks like Bella Thorne with a page boy haircut. Maybe.
Yeah, and worked at Hooters.
And worked into it. But then I think there's another callback too that kind of implies it a little bit more, was when Adam Sandler is watching his oldest dance with the
The
Jessica
Edward looking
Lowe's and
boy.
Kevin Nealon's son. Um, and the way it's shot, it's Adam Sandler reminiscing about what his wife was like when she was alive, because you see Hillary, kicking up her heels, she's dancing, she's smiling, she's having a good time, she's getting into it, and then it shows Adam Sandler's face as he's looking at her, and it's like kind of like a bittersweet thing where he's remembering what his wife was like, and now he's seeing what his daughter's like, that she's a lot like her,
Mhm.
and he's got that his facial expression, I think, really sells that.
Yeah. And I do think that where this kind of fails for me, even though it does make me laugh, but it makes me laugh and roll my eyes at the same time, is the level of the not gross out humor. I don't think that there's a ton of gross out humor, except maybe a lot of the jokes related to the oldest son masturbating to his to his babysitter.
Yeah. I didn't really. The only other like I would say, I don't know if you can call it a gross out joke, and it's the one that actually made me laugh is when it's very early on when she eats the hot wings at
Yeah,
Hooters,
that made
and
me
he's like,
laugh.
"Here, drink the Korean, drink this
French
French onion
onion
soup."
soup.
And like, yeah, it's a little gross, but also for some reason that maybe I'm a 12-year-old at heart. Sometimes it hit like I cackled at that one.
Yeah,
And then
there were definitely a few jokes. Like also, whenever Lou saw her, quote unquote, kitty cat face paint in the mirror, and she just started screaming, "It's like, ah, you turned me into the Walking Dead."
he turned me into The Walking Dead. Um, speaking of looking things, I also really love the musical callbacks when Adam Sandler's daughter first shows up. Um, there's like no, it's Drew Barrymore. When Drew Barrymore first shows up, you have her son sees like the end of the world. Um,
Yeah,
Adam Sandler sees what song
I'll
plays in
make
his
love
head?
to you.
Yep, Make Love to You, and then there's a third song that plays.
The Indian woman has the Katy Perry's
Kiss,
"I Kissed a
yeah, that's
Girl."
a Kiss the Girl. And then it's flipped when when his oldest
But
daughter gets like gets glammed up and she gets the hair extensions and she shows up, you know,
yeah, and Adam Sandler is it's the
end
end
of
of
the
the world
world.
as we know it,
Yep,
and the other teenage boy is
is the
uh
Make Love to You. Yep,
yeah.
I thought that was pretty well done. I was like, this is clever.
Yeah, I enjoyed that too. And I did think that some of the sons, the younger son ADHD jokes, I think they didn't, a lot of them didn't land for me too much. Like sometimes they did, like him uh, with the t-shirt on fire at the
Yes.
beginning. That made me laugh. But them playing like real life joust on the ostriches, that was kind of weird, especially with the backflip at the end. And like even whenever they first show up in Africa and he's like doing gymnastics on the tusk of the elephant in kind of a clearly, or at least clearly to me, like CGI moment.
Yeah, of course, but it also kind of shows it's interesting when you look at it because you have Drew Barrymore's character being very overprotective of her children,
Mhm.
even though and I think that's also illustrated by the backflip off of the ostrich. She's like, "Oh my God," but like he's fine. You know,
Yeah. Yeah, it's like I
whereas
get that, but I thought that they kind of took that scene to 11.
oh, of course they did. They absolutely did because like I didn't even see that coming in. I was like, all right, sure. And it's if you look at Adam Sandler's character as Jim, he's kind of he's not very overprotective at all. He's kind of I won't say
Well, he is in a different way because he's not protective, but he is focused on Lou's basketball career and, keeping her tomboyish and focused on the basketball. Like whenever they're playing the basketball 2-on-2 with the two random characters, that to me doesn't make sense. And initially she's being very aggressive, and which that's funny. And then she sees the Edward looking teenager walking past, and then she starts like this weird strutting, and uh, Jim cannot figure out what she's doing, which I think that it paints him a little bit too oblivious.
yeah, there is that, but also like I think that it's also his way of dealing because like Drew Barrymore's character isn't grieving for the most
Mhm.
part, and Adam Sandler's is, and I think a lot that explains a lot of the way why his hint like that's why he's like completely all in on her getting to basketball because he's not giving himself time to really think about what's going on, you
Yeah.
know. Whereas Drew Barrymore, her overprotectiveness comes and it's highlighted by her um the scene that she had where she breaks down while wearing the black dress. If I tried a
Mhm.
little harder, if I did this a little better, if I was a little sexier, maybe this wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
And that I think that plays into overprotectiveness because maybe if I am, if I can keep them a little safer a little longer, you know what I mean? Like if I can do a little more, then maybe something terrible won't happen.
Yeah. I also wasn't like I understood that it had to happen, but I didn't care for as much whenever Hillary got her makeover that they gave her hair extensions. I almost wish they would have rather had gone to like a cute pixie cut to where
Yes.
it that would have made sense rather than giving her the traditional long hair and explain it away by saying, "Oh, I got her extensions." Because for
Yeah,
one
that would have
thing,
made lot
I,
more sense.
yeah, especially from from my perspective as someone who has looked into how much hair extensions cost for
They are expensive.
yeah, they are very expensive, and this movie paints both of these characters as, extremely hurting for money, that they are very budget conscious.
Yeah.
I would not expect even potentially Africa prices. And on top of that, why would this salon in Africa have her hair color of extensions?
Yeah, precisely. That it's one of those things that doesn't really make a heck of a lot of sense, but
Yeah.
in the greater context of the movie, it's it's like we're like okay, fine, sure, I accept it. You know,
Yeah, I also wanted to spend just a little bit of time because I thought that there was this weird connection between all three of these movies that where they have this not quite trans character, which is so bizarre because in 51st States they have the Alexa, who's the very mannish woman that's everybody mistakes for a man, and the Wedding Singer they have George who makes an appearance in this movie at the very end playing the keyboard. And that character is, it's I'm not even sure. I believe in the movie they're a man that's just androgynous because they're um trying to be like Boy George, but it's played by Alexis Arquette, who is trans herself.
yep.
And
And is no
this was
longer with
actually,
us.
yeah, this was actually her last movie role. She passed away like I think 2 months after this movie came out.
Yeah, and they do kind of touch on it, but this came out in 2014, so I think that's also kind of where we're turning the corner on that kind of comedy.
Yeah, and in this
Um,
movie we have Hillary, who, she's not a trans character or she's not really a trans character or non-binary character. She is, very much a girl, but she is mistaken for a boy because of the haircut several times in the first half of this movie.
exactly, and I think that you know it's a hard that's a hard one to try to reconcile because
Mhm.
back in 2014 the sensibilities were starting to change, um
Yeah.
and you can see it even in the way this movie's overall put together. I think that if it was in like a 2007 2006 movie, I think that would have been more of a broad stroke. You would have seen probably a bit more of that.
Mhm.
So I'm glad for the restraint there, so that's it's not
Yeah,
terribly problematic.
it wasn't pushed too hard. I think they just did the mistake like maybe 3 times.
Yeah. But like now
And it was
if you look at something like 51st Dates in like through today's lens, people will tell you that's problematic because technically people will make the connection of like um of gaslighting or other manipulation as he's kind of working through her amnesia. You know what I mean?
yeah, and I spent a lot of time talking about the Alexa character with almost every guest, over 19 episodes or 20 episodes. But yeah, that is, a borderline problematic character. I think I came away, or most of us came away as it being actually surprisingly positive, but still not the best, just because everybody treated her as a regular person, but the jokes about her looking like a man that didn't go over that well most of the time.
Exactly. I think that, but also I think that when you look at it, it's also came out 10 years before this movie. So
Yeah.
before those sensibilities actually started to change. So
Mhm.
that's an interesting, lens to look through.
Yeah, and I did also really appreciate, even though it kind of doesn't make sense in the real world, but I love seeing 10-second Tom show up at the early
Exactly.
on the movie. And then, this ends again with kind of the um, with another bit of like sitcom slash rom-com uh, miscommunication where Jim goes to profess his love after they've, grown to care for each other over the course of this vacation. And he sees her ex-husband who's just staying there to watch the kids, and he is jealous, so he claims that they're getting back together. And then very shortly after that, you find out that that's not true at all. And uh, then he has the last minute save at the youngest kid's little league game, the baseball game, where again one of the bonding moments between Jim and the youngest was him teaching him to play, uh, teaching him to hit a ball.
Yep.
And that was kind of a fun moment. And I didn't recognize the guy, but apparently the cricket bowler is actually a famous cricket player.
And the guy who plays his boss is a former, I think is a former sportscaster at ESPN.
Yeah, I think so.
But that's also another. It's also a callback to The Wedding Singer, when Drew Barrymore goes to Adam Sandler's house and his ex girlfriend's there because
Mm.
she's, she, I think she, if I ever recall correctly, she just shows up and and then she tells him that he's in the shower,
Yeah.
and she gets mad, she throws the music, but then Adam Sandler comes back in at the end with the save on the plane with a little grow old with you song.
Yeah, I think he had passed out, and so she saw the ex-girlfriend, and then also he has the moment where he goes to tell her, and he sees her practicing in the mirror, and she looks happy because in her scene she changes it from her awful fiance to um, uh, Robbie. And, she's pretending that she's marrying Robbie and that makes her happy. But Robbie sees her happy and he's like, oh, she's happy. She's about to get married. I'm not going to go bother her.
It's become Julia Gulia.
Um, but yeah, is there anything else that you want to say about this movie? And I I still think, even though it sounds like I'm mostly positive on it, I think that it is kind of heavy-handed at times, a little bit too over the top at times. But I will admit that it made me laugh, and I think that sweet parts were handled pretty well.
Absolutely. I think that this movie, I enjoyed this movie for what it was. It had me laughing. I thought it had a lot of heart. I think it's overall, a few shots here and there. I think it tells the story really well, visually.
Mhm.
And I like a lot of the callbacks, and I think the characters are all interesting because like even the side characters too. Like you could make Kevin Nealon this like creepo who's with a woman half his age, but they genuinely love each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And even though he's constantly talking in those like weird like
Yeah,
staccato.
they're weird, but at the same time they're hilarious.
Exactly. So yeah, overall, I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. I think it was well worth the watch, and I would recommend it to somebody.
Yeah, I would give reserved recommendations because the sense of humor I think is not for everybody, and I definitely was rolling my eyes at a lot of the moments throughout the movie, but at the same time, it did make me laugh many times throughout the course of the movie, and like I said, the sweet moments were handled pretty well. But thank you so much for joining me today and watching this movie. I'm glad that you enjoyed it, and I know that you're not actively podcasting, but if people want to find your past work and um, if you have any online presence that you want to share, I'll give you the opportunity to do that now.
If you want to look up any of our old episodes for the First Time Watchers podcast, do a quick Google search for the First Time Watchers podcast, and we will pop up on. It's been a while, but we were on. Where I know we're still on iTunes and we're on Stitcher. and other places where you can find fantastic podcasts with very sillily written promos.
Okay, well, Stitcher is no more, so you can't
Oh,
find anything
so we're not
on
on Stitcher
Stitcher.
anymore.
But
So we're still on iTunes.
yeah, and I am Bubbawheat, and you can find me anywhere on social media where I'm at Bubbawheat. And you can find this show, It's Time to Rewind, on all the available podcatchers out there. We also have a Facebook group, It's Time to Rewind, a time loop group, where you can join and talk about time loop movies, which this is absolutely not anything close to a time loop movie, but it is loosely connected to 51st Dates. And this is kind of my hiatus. In between seasons episode. And until next time, I will see you again for breakfast next month.